Hello and welcome to the Life by Design podcast, brought to you by Strategic. This podcast is all about helping you live your great life. Hello and welcome back to the Life by Design podcast. Today I'm here with Melissa Fernalld. She is a senior advisor partner here at Strategic, as well as a certified financial planner, and also just recently got her certified divorce financial analyst, right?
Yes, it's a mouthful.
It is. That's why we use acronyms after everybody's names. Yes. Well, thanks for coming on, Melissa.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this first podcast ever.
First podcast ever.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad I could be here for you.
Same, Jay. Same.
So we're going to have a couple episodes with Melissa, but today specifically is going to talk about divorce. Melissa specializes in divorce financial planning, and so we wanted to touch on that and really maybe for our listeners out there help you if you've unfortunately recently divorced and kind of thinking about what your next steps are. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to kick it off here, and I think besides the obvious of the divorce, mm-hmm. Why does divorce become such a pivotal moment for rethinking one's financial plan?
Sure. So, divorce is a very life-changing moment that comes with a lot of emotions. Mm-hmm. There's fear, there's anger, guilt, grief, and it really can change a lot financially. So a lot of times in a marriage, you may have one person that's really handling the finances, the day-to-day. We call them the CFO, of the household. They're the ones paying the bills, managing the investment assets and whatnot. So that could be a big change if you're not that person. Mm. And then it's just other changes, such as going down from 2 incomes to 1 income. How does this affect long-term goals? And all those different financial aspects of the plan.
Yeah. And so with that, what's one of the first kind of mindset shifts that clients have to make? I know there's several and you just named a few of them, mm-hmm. but what's the first one you think is the most helpful?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is take a breath, right? Take a breath, feel the emotions, and really avoid making any big life-altering decisions or changes, right? We see a lot people when they're going through a big life-changing event, they feel like they need to take action to, make this huge change so that they can regain control. And really, the advice would be to just stop, take a breath, wait on any big life-changing moments, so that you can kind of settle into this new reality and understand what it means, where you are now, where you want to be, and make thoughtful decisions about that. And it's really just starting with the basics, understanding where you are today financially, what are your assets, what are your liabilities, what are your income sources, expenses, and just getting organized. Yeah. That's really, I think, the first step, and that will help give you the confidence that you need to move forward.
Yeah, and I think you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but some of that kind of, if you're in the middle of the divorce, maybe not towards the end, some of that's happening anyways, mm-hmm. right? And so, if you're at the beginning of that decision tree of divorce, you're going to have to do that anyways to get through the whole procedure of the divorce.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so what do you think, if you, there may be a couple, but what are some of the most frequent money pitfalls that people face immediately after the settlement of the divorce?
Yeah. So, it's a good question. And really it's one, making sure you have some liquidity. Two, and then just understanding again some of those basics. What are my expenses? Yeah. because unfortunately bills don't stop through these life-changing moments. There's no grace period there. So you really want to understand what those are and what liquidity do you have available, to continue paying those expenses. And then again, too, I'll just go back to, the pitfalls of just not making any big decisions right up front, right? Just kind of let's get settled. Let's understand where we are, and settle into this new, situation. And then from there, make some informed decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Because I think after the divorce, it sometimes can feel like you're starting at 0, right? Like, I mean, this is for a lot of people, hopefully, right? After your divorce, this is the first time you've been divorced, hopefully. And it can be striking, like trying to understand what your new life looks like. So like with that, how would someone prioritize their goals uh, when the resources have just been split from a divorce?
Yeah. So I think the first step is talking about those goals, right? What are those goals? And again, from there, just getting organized, understanding what are the new assets, what are the liabilities, what are my income sources, what are my expenses. So the first step is really just getting that organized and understanding that. And then two, what I always like to suggest is monitor your expenses for a month or two, right? So track them, and you can use an app for that. If you pay everything with a credit card or a debit card, you can use that to help you organize things into different buckets. But just give yourself that clarity on where the money's going, what you're spending on, for a month, maybe 2 months, and then from there, we can use that. You can use that to create a budget. And I know everyone hates the B word, but it's really important, and it can really give you confidence and empower you to make good decisions, right? And that helps take away the stress. If you know where your money's going, and then you can sit down and look and say, okay, what are my priorities? What are the essentials? What just brings me joy and happy, right? Those are your non-negotiables. And then where maybe can we cut back? It just doesn't bring any value. We don't need this. Put that budget together, and then from there you can create a really good, solid plan going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think even like something that seems trivial, like groceries, right? Like your bill is completely different now, right? So understanding what that looks like electricity bill could be different. Like I know those are small, but like I think it's kind of the way you're explaining it to me, it was like, how do you eat an elephant, right? Like one spoonful at a time.
Exactly.
And so starting small at manageable things like grocery bills, electricity bills, like those things will be different, and now you can adjust for that.
Yes, small manageable steps, and then just tracking progress. Once you have that budget and you know what you're spending, then you can start on to the next step, which would be creating some goals. And a good first goal would be making sure you have that savings in the bank to rely on, right? That bucket, that rainy day fund that can help you just smooth out cash flow, whether a big expense comes up, or whatever it is. And so that would be really the next step, is looking at what's our liquidity, where's our savings at, let's set some goals, and then talk about small manageable steps to get to that goal.
Yeah. And I think, I know there's all kinds of different recommendations, but I think the one that's always stuck out to me is for that savings, for your emergency fund, is kind of like 3 to 6 months of what your like normal bills would be, so that you can stay afloat if something were to happen.
Yes, 3 to 6 months is the general rule of thumb of what your expenses are. If you're now in a single household with one income, you probably want to be on the longer end of that, somewhere around 6 months. And that can seem like a lot. Like, geez, how am I going to save that much money? And the important part is to just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. It can be small. And what I always recommend is you do it automatically. So you set up maybe an automatic transfer from your checking to a savings, or you can even do it from a paycheck sometimes.
Yeah.
Go right into your savings. It's like paying yourself a bill. You don't have to think about it. And even if it's a small amount, it's amazing to see how that'll add up and get you to that goal. Um,
Yeah. I like that too. And that's something I've kind of incorporated, which is I just have the bank do it automatically.
mhm.
They move some money into my savings account every couple of weeks when when we know
Yep,
we're getting paid or whatever, and that has really helped. And I don't even really think about it much anymore, right? And that's nice.
exactly. And that really goes into any of your bills. Automate.
Yeah.
Make things,
Yes.
especially if you're new to this, especially if you're new to being the one paying the bills and managing that responsibility. Anything you can set up on auto pay, bill pay, go ahead and do it. It takes that stress out of it.
Mm.
But then it's also a good practice, I think, especially as you are getting comfortable and you want to be more knowledgeable, right, about just your day-to-day finances. It's also important though to set time, maybe each week, each month, sit down and look at it,
Mm.
right? And that goes to that tracking. Okay, I set my budget. How am I doing?
Yeah.
How am I tracking with it? Or okay, set up everything on auto pay. How's it working?
Mm.
How's my cash ebb and flowing? And then that just, I think, gives you the clarity, confidence as you
Yeah.
move forward. It just becomes more and more natural.
Yeah, and from my perspective, like this is not a financial planning tip at all. This is just something I know. Some of the larger banks, like Chase, these banks, if you have an account with them and they have an app, they'll break down your budget for you. Like
Mhm.
it's not always 100% correct, but it's close enough
Close enough.
that it'll tell you, oh, hey, here's your spending for this past week or month.
Mhm.
And so, if budgeting is beyond you and you haven't like touched base with a financial planner yet, you could just use your banking app usually for that,
Yep.
and then go okay, and then you can come to Melissa and you can say, okay, here's what my budget looks like based on my last month's spending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And yeah, I guess one of the things I wanted to ask and kind of touch on too, if you had any advice. So a lot of time with large life events like this, specifically with divorce, a lot of emotion can play in, even after I've taken that breath. So like what's some advice that you would have to like kind of separate the dollars and the numbers, from that emotion?
Hmm. I think it's one, validating the emotions, right? And listening to what's important. So I know, one of the first things I would do if I was sitting down with a client is really just hearing what's important. What are you worried about? What would make you feel more comfortable?
Mhm.
And understanding that, and then putting a plan in place to get you there. So in putting meaning to the numbers, right? So sure, there's times when you have to go through the numbers, and part of our job is to educate what those numbers mean, but then it's putting meaning to them. This is how those numbers relate to your goals,
Yeah.
to your long-term financial security. This is how it all fits in. And that's when I think everything starts to click,
Yeah.
right? So, oh yeah, I get that. That
Right.
makes sense to me. You tell me my investments were up 10%. All right,
Right.
cool.
Yeah, right.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh, but when we look at your long-term cash flow forecast, this is the assumptions that we're using.
Yeah.
So that's how that fits in. Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And I think this is, something we talk about a lot in retirement, but I think it fits really well here is also, one of the things we always ask folks is, hey, what does your great life look like? Right. And I think probably for you too, in the divorce space, it's saying, okay, I know it's hard to think about now, but where do you want to be? What that goal is, what's your great life look
Mhm.
like?
Mm-hmm.
When the clouds part and the sun's back out, what do you want to do? Do you want to travel? Do you want to spend time with,
Yep.
family? Like what does that look like for you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's setting those goals, and some of it can be even a little bit more basic, right? So you mentioned retirement.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to retire someday, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I think at least some capacity. So those retirement plans could change when you're going through a divorce. If you have to split your retirement assets in half, that can really change your readiness for retirement, your timeline. So it's a good time to sit down and revisit that. What
Yeah.
are the goals? Where are we now in that process? And track that. And yeah, and then just understanding other goals. It might be, well, when I'm ready, I want to move, or I still want to contribute to my kids' educations if you have kids. So understanding all those different parts, and then kind of where we are in that now after, the divorce is settled.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of wrap it up here, first step, take a breath, breathe, things will be okay.
Yeah.
And then next, budget.
Get organized.
Yeah.
Right? Get organized. Understand where the different pieces are, what the different buckets mean, how they fit into your overall picture. So just get organized. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? What's your income look like? And then expenses, and creating that budget, tracking. And then let's set some manageable savings goals, and we work from there. The important part is taking the small steps, breaking it down into manageable pieces, and then celebrating the wins, right?
Right.
So, I put a budget together. Awesome. That's awesome.
Right.
Pat yourself on the back. That's not an easy task.
Yeah. I mean, even with the savings, like just setting even if it's like a low dollar, like $500.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want to get to $500. Okay, that's great.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And celebrate when you get there, or paying off a small debt.
Right.
Anything. Setting those small goals and then celebrating along the way. That's what builds habits and consistency.
Yeah, great. Love it. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. Please see the full disclosure in our show notes for more information.